everyone, welcome back to Shred Guitar in the 80s. It's kind of the new season of Shred Guitar in the 80s. Kind of just plan on doing these more in the fall and the winter. I'm playing out a lot with my acoustic guitar in the summer, so it keeps me really busy. But in the fall and winter, I'll have more time to do some electric stuff. So today I thought it'd be fun to talk about Yngwie. I've spent some time with the new Yngwie release. I've had it since, I think, July it came out. I thought it'd be a lot of fun to share my thoughts on Yngwie's playing today compared to when he first came out. Kind of the differences in his style or similarities, and see how he evolved and talk about some things that I noticed. I'm also going to show you a cool variation of an Yngwie lick. It's really the first fast-picking lick that I ever learned off the Alcatraz album. But I kind of changed it slightly early on in my playing in the 80s so I could cross strings with an upstroke to keep my alternate picking going because of the nature of my mechanics. I like crossing with an upstroke when I'm playing really fast a lot of the times. So this is kind of a little variation that might help some of you that find it more comfortable to cross with an upstroke to a higher string. So let's get started. I'll never forget the first time I heard Yngwie with Alcatraz. I think it was 1984. It was the first time I heard anyone pick so clean and articulate. It just blew my mind. It was everything I wanted the guitar to sound like. When I heard Yngwie, I was really into Randy Rhoads and Eddie, like I mentioned, and I love the classical elements that Randy had, or the classical part of Eruption. I just was really fascinated with that sound, Ritchie Blackmore. And Yngwie took it and just turned it up. It was just amazing. It was mind-blowing. I remember going to the store the next day and buying the cassette and coming home and just trying to pick like that. And I had no idea how to pick. I was like, do I cross to the next string with a downstroke? Do I alternate everything? It was just mind-blowing for me. And I remember going to my guitar teacher and be like, help me. You know, I got to be able to pick fast. So he told me to alternate and show me a couple Al Di Meola style licks. Well, I used to have this way to figure out licks. I remember sitting down and figuring out the Yngwie lick, really the picking lick that changed my whole life, my whole playing life. And that was from the song Jet to Jet. And I've talked about this and played this like a million times on my channel. It's kind of the basis for a lot of the picking things I do that kind of evolved from this lick. And I remember sitting down and learning this lick. And I've talked about this where I spent a long time trying to play this lick. And I could never get it fast. I kind of held my pick like kind of trailing edged, I guess is what they call that. And I could only get it so fast it was miserable. Then one day I came home and I saw Yngwie, a photo in Guitar World magazine, and he kind of had his hand like that and the pick was pointed that way. So I put my hands in the body. At the time I wasn't resting them on the body, and just started picking the note fast. Well, my left hand was really developed by that time because I'd been playing all those Van Halen solos and Randy Rhoads stuff, and was actually a little bit into Holsworth at that time too. My guitar teacher turned me on to Allen, which was mind-blowing in itself. But I remember sitting down and there it was, you know, I could play the lick once I got the mechanics going. Now my mechanics tended to come from the elbow when I pick fast. I remember sitting around just trying to play that lick over and over like but then I sat down. I used to have a cassette deck and I would just hit it really fast, like the pause button, and I could hear each note go by individually, and I would tab it out and I could figure out the run was and that was really the first picking thing that I did on my own, and it changed my whole playing style, my whole life. And the pattern was, a lot of you Yngwie fans will know this lick. In this case we're playing the key of B minor, which is the key that Jet to Jet's in. And the run kind of goes like this. It goes 19, 15, 17, 19, 17, 15. Then you just move that to the higher string. Then go back down and keep it in the scale. harmonic minor. I practiced the lick and I got it pretty good. I could do with the downstroke, just like Yngwie, like kind of crossing with a downstroke each time. And at the time, a lot of the runs I was practicing switched with an upstroke. Well, my mechanics, as Troy Grady talks about a lot in his channel, allowed me to pick with a downward escape where I could play a downstroke on a lower string and an upstroke on a higher string. And Cracking the Code, the amazing Cracking the Code with Troy Grady, goes into all that stuff in detail. So if you have any questions, then I'd recommend checking out his YouTube channel or his website. But for me, it was easier to kind of switch strings with an upstroke when I was in that elbow mode. So I thought, how can I do this in a way that I can play all the Yngwie licks and be able to chain all that together? So I come up with this little variation where I do the Yngwie lick here, then I would do a downstroke on the 19, so I'd go like 19, 15, 17, 19, 17, 15, the Yngwie lick. Then I would do this little turnaround that would get me to the top string. It would be down, in this case, on 19, then 15, 17, 19, and back down. That would be up, down, up. Then I'd do the Yngwie lick on the first string. That allowed me to cross with that upstroke. Then I would just continue that through. And it worked. It worked really cool. And even now, a lot of my lines, I use that little mechanism, that little turnaround, to keep the timing nice and even, keeps those triplets flowing, and just keep that upstroke cruising. Now I do switch strings a lot with the downstroke, but a lot of times when I'm really cruising fast, that upstroke just feels really good. If I was to play with the metronome, and it worked. It worked. I really liked it, and that became kind of a staple of my style. And if I was to play that really slow, it'd sound like this. You can do little variations of that where you could go. So you do the Yngwie lick, 19, 15, 17, 19, 17, 15. Then 17, 15, 17, 19, 17, 15. So you get. Then you'll do that little turnaround. Gets me the top string that I talked about. Then you'll just do the same thing here, but starting with your second finger on the 17. 17, 15, 17, 19, 17, 15. So you get. And just move it down. And then. Let's bump it up to 132. Liked when Yngwie played, he had a pulse to all those licks. It wasn't just mindless fast playing with no pulse floating around. Sometimes he would do that and be really killer, but I love that pulse, that swinging element. When he played those triplets, man, they just, you could hear the rhythms. You just wanted to tap your foot. And I think that really makes it a lot more interesting for people listening to it. They have something to latch onto versus just constant playing fast with no pulse. So when you do that, really try to get those triplets to come out. I use just the very tip of the pick. So I've been grooving on the new Yngwie album the last couple months. I thought it would be fun to share my thoughts on it. It's Parabellum, and it came out in July. The first song on this, Wolves at the Door, I think is a killer track. When it was first released, I really liked it. And I have to say, I really like Yngwie's vocals a lot on this album. I liked World on Fire too, but I think he's really progressed as a singer on this album. The blues album I don't listen to as much, but World on Fire I really like a lot. You know, it's kind of interesting that if you go like to some of the heavy metal news sites like Blabbermouth and read the comments about Yngwie, they just rag on his singing, saying the production sucks and all that. I don't get it because I think his singing sounds fine on this. I think he's really progressed as a singer. The melodies are great. It fits right in with the track really nice. And I really love the production because I can hear Yngwie's guitar great. The drums are kind of a little different. They almost sound mechanical. I'm not sure if it's a real drummer or if it's a drum machine or what's going on there. But the drumming is cool. The ideas are cool. It doesn't get in the way of the music for me at all. It's just kind of a different sound. But his guitar sounds just great on this album. And when I hear an Yngwie song, I want to hear the production up front, and this has got it. The soloing on this album is just incredible. I mean, Yngwie's really pushed himself. I think he's just sitting around playing all day with the pandemic, and man, his chops are in fine form on this album. One thing I noticed he does a lot different than the old days is he's not as lyrical as he was in the old days. The old days he would break a lot of the fast runs up with these cool little phrases that were real lyrical, that really stuck in your head, especially with Alcatraz and the first few Rising Force albums. Nowadays he tends to play just kind of this fluid, kind of more based off scales, just flowing scales, and not so many of the melodies. But I still love it. I still love the soloing on this album. And his playing nowadays I think is great. If he plays like this on tour, it's going to be phenomenal. Go see him. I noticed one thing, like I was listening to some early Yngwie, he didn't do the descending scales that much in the early stuff. He would throw it in a little bit on the first few albums. He did a lot of these really cool turnaround licks, you know, that were really killer. He doesn't really do the turnaround kind of like two-string repetitive patterns as much as he does just kind of like these flowing descending scales and ascending scales, but mostly descending. I think on some of the solos, man, he's just descending scales almost the whole solo, just going down, then another run goes down, does a little lick, then another run goes down. He's really feeling those descending scales in his arpeggios. The cool thing about this is the arpeggios are really cool, but he doesn't overdo it. I thought in Spellbound it was a little too arpeggio based for me, and it wasn't quite as tight as I like to hear it. On this, he's really tight. The arpeggios are really killer, but he's doing a lot of really cool picking and legato runs. He's got that great touch. Some of my favorite songs is, I think one of the best songs that he's released in a long time is God Particle. Starts out with this really cool acoustic intro, and it just has some amazing soloing. And I love there's this one phrase that kind of echoes over the next, and it's really cool. The soloing on Toccata is just incredible. It almost sounds sped up, but I know it's not. I mean, it's crazy. There's some wild stuff going on in that solo for sure. Relentless Fury was the second single. I think it was a great choice because he sounds great on it, and the soloing on the outro is just phenomenal. Then you have the instrumental Parabellum, which is another single that was released. It's really cool. The song Presto, the instrumental Presto, it sounds like he's doing the variation of the breakdown before the solo in Evil Eye, that fast picking part with the drums. It's kind of like he's taken that riff and kind of expanding on it and made it into a song. It's really cool. Magic Bullet's a really cool track. The Good Fight. Sea of Tranquility is an 8-minute long instrumental that goes through a whole bunch of stuff, and then it's just a long solo at the end. I mean, it's like relentless. It could maybe be a little shorter, but being a guitar nut like me, it can never be long enough. But overall, I really rate this album real highly. Like I said, I liked World on Fire a lot. I wasn't Spellbound or whatever it was, the one he had before that. I wasn't quite as into that as the last couple. The blues album I bought, I don't really listen to it a whole lot. When I hear the blues stuff, I tend to go more of a purist direction on that, but he played great on that also. I bought the deluxe edition, and it's really cool. Let's check it out and see what it's got in it. It has the CD, which is really cool. Has a cool photo of Yngwie live there. It's got a cool photo book, or kind of lyric book, I mean, with some cool photos in it. Some more. He was Red Ferrari. He loves that. It's pretty cool. Some cool photos. Yeah, so the CD sounds great. I cranked it up in my car. I still have a CD player in my car. And it sounded great. I really enjoyed it. And then there's some other goodies in here. The thing that really intrigued me initially when I bought the deluxe version, I read on Amazon what was included with it, was the guitar picks. You get 3 guitar picks in this case. I thought they'd be Yngwie's 1.5 Jim Dunlops in the white, which is cool because you can buy them. I think they're purple, but they're not those though. These are just some Yngwie picks. They look like they're maybe medium or heavy with just Yngwie's name written on them and cool photos. So it's still cool, but I don't think I'll open them and play them at all. Then you got a couple coasters here that are cool. We got the album cover on one side, the live shot in the next. So you get 2 of those. And a Parabellum sticker, which is cool. Everybody's looking good, looking healthy there. And then you get the album cover and a postcard. So if you want to write someone a letter, you can send them Yngwie's photo with it. But pretty cool, you know. Main thing for me is the CD. The extra goodies are kind of cool, but I wish you had the Jim Dunlop picks in there. So overall, just a cool album. And as I said, the early Yngwie tend to be more lyrical with the cool turnaround licks. And later Yngwie tends to be more flowing scales. Not so many of the melodies as much as just relentless scales, which is cool. I mean, I really dig both. So anyway, it's good to be back with shred guitar in the 80s. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this cover. I'm looking forward to talking about the new Macalpine album. I just got that. I've been grooving on it. The new Joe Stump instrumental album, I'm going to talk about that. The new Alcatraz album, just a killer album, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to cover some arpeggios, legato, lots more picking, some cool players from the 80s and up through today that are kind of influenced by the 80s guys. So should be fun this fall and winter as I kind of delve it back into the shred guitar and the 80s stuff. So thanks a lot for joining me, and if you haven't, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be uploading a lot of cool stuff, I hope. And until next time, have fun picking.